Well, good evening there, and welcome, folks, to another episode of 162 Times, your daily baseball recap and preview show. I'm your host, Daniel Turner. Great to be with you here on a wonderful Tuesday evening in Ottawa. It's cooled off a little bit. Temperature's nice. Things are nice. It's nice out there. We've got some Mariners action to bring you from last night. Monday night, they were down in Houston. Take on the Astros for first of three key games in their late season playoff push. Old Dan Wilson at the helm of the Mariners now, cutting a fine image, if you ask me, as a manager. It looks great in the dugout, kind of hook-nosed and scowling, willing to let it roll, let it ride, roll the dice, that kind of thing. I'm really enjoying his managerial take on this team. So we'll talk about game last night. We'll tee up game 2 of the series. We'll look around the scoreboard, and we'll also look at the standings because this is kind of the end of the year. So let's get right to it. So last night from Minute Maid Park, and guess what? The Mariners played a great game. They won. 6-1 was your final. Mariners go to 81 and 76, second in the West. First in the West still belongs to the Astros, who are now 85 and 72. The Mariners' faint hope of winning the divisional crown remains alive courtesy of that victory. It was Bryce Big Tex Miller in Texas getting the victory, 12-8, 2.94 ERA on the season. He has been the Mariners' best pitcher over the last couple of months. He was exceptional last night. He took on the very good Hunter Brown, who now is 11-9 after losing. 3.49 ERA for Hunter Brown. The Mariners had a great night, 13 hits, 6 runs, no errors. Astros only 4 hits for 1 run. That's how you do it, guys. Pitching lines. Miller went 7 innings, 97 pitches, only 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. It was exceptional. Troy Taylor came on for the 8th. He was a bit shaky, but I still thought he was okay. He gave up 2 hits, 1 run, and he gave up a home run. Then Bizzardo came on because the Mariners tacked on runs late, so they didn't need to use Munoz. And he did a clean 1 inning. Overall, 5 Ks for Mariners pitching, all from Mr. Miller, and only 2 walks. On the Houston side of things, it was Hunter Brown who went 6 innings in 103 pitches. The Mariners made him work. I'll give them that. They have done that most of the year, but especially now, they are putting more balls in play and striking out less. So 3 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 8 Ks for Brown. Then it was Ferguson, a third of an inning only. He gave up 2 hits and a run, and he struck out 1. Then Ort came on for 2/3 of an inning, 1 hit, 1 walk. King, 2/3 of an inning, 4 hits, 2 earned runs. And then Martinez, an inning and a third, 3 hits, 2 earned runs. So only 9 strikeouts compared to 4 walks for Astro pitching on the evening. Astros were also 0 for 4 with runners in scoring position. They left 5 on base. The Mariners were 6 for 16 with runners in scoring position. They left 9 on the base paths. But let's talk about that scoring. So, close game early, top of 3. Cal drives in Victor Robles to make it 1-0 on a single. That was huge. That was the scoreline, 1-0 until the top of the 7th when Julio Rodriguez singled in Justin Turner. Dylan Moore was out on a throw at third. Second time in 2 games he's been put out at third when he maybe should have just held up at second because, unfortunately, J.P. Crawford was not able to cross home plate before the out was recorded on Dylan Moore, so the second run on the single didn't count, and that made it 3 outs. So it was only 2-0 after 7, and the crowd was really into it at that point, and the game was hanging very finely in the balance. But Mariners pitching held their own. Top of 8. Actually, it was huge because in the bottom of the 7th, Dan Wilson decided to leave Miller in the game. And he got into a little bit of trouble. There was 2 men on, and at one point they got to third. And then he struck out Victor Carantini on a beautiful pitch. And then he also got the very dangerous Jeremy Pena to swing and miss to end the inning. It was money, and that was his night done. But I give Dan Wilson a lot of credit. He left him in there, clapped his hands. Bryce went out and did his job. I mean, Bryce was lights out and rewarded. Top of the 8th. Next time the Mariners got to bat, Justin Turner sack fly, brought in Cal Raleigh, made it 3-0. Then Jorge Polanco, he doubled, allowing Randy Arozarena to score. It was a bit of a weird one. It landed like in this weird part of the chain link fence. And so Justin Hayward called time, and it was a ground rule double. Anyway, Arozarena was going to score anyway. Raley went to third. That made it 4-0. Same inning. There was another double, I thought, in that inning. But anyway, there was a lot of good work in that inning because Luke Raley laid down a bunt to load the bases and get on, which was awesome. Angie Mentic was calling the game, and her line was great. It was basically like, if Bregman takes one step behind the bag, he's going to lay down. There it is. He's laying down the bunt. Anyway, we like that. Jason Hayward made things a little scary. He homered in the bottom of the eighth to make it a 4-1 game. But top of nine is when all the doubles started happening. So Victor Robles had doubled to lead off the inning. Then Julio ground rule doubled to score him 5-1. And then Randy Arozarena hit another ground rule double right after that, his 31st double of the year. And that scored Julio to make it 6-1. And then Bizzardo didn't have any trouble in the ninth. So that's how the game was won. Really just excellent, fun game to watch for the Mariners. Noting that Cal was the one who got it started when we really needed a run in a tense, good pitching matchup where Hunter Brown was pitching really, really well. And that run really was helpful because that stayed us in the game until late when the bullpens got involved, and the Mariners bullpen proved to be superior to that of the Astros. All right, so out-of-town scoreboard, what we're going to do next. Now, it was an interesting thing in Major League Baseball for whatever reason. I mean, we know that Mondays and Thursdays are most teams' days off, but a lot of teams had the day off on Monday, September 23rd, so there was only 4 games, including the one the Mariners played. So the Cubs lost 6-2 to the Phillies in Philadelphia. The Red Sox beat the Blue Jays 4-1 in Toronto. And the Giants beat the Diamondbacks 6-3. So none of those games have a particular impact on the Mariners' playoff chances. The Red Sox are pretty well too far behind with only 5 games left in the season to make that up. Now, what do the standings look like now that this has happened? Well, first we'll look at the divisional race. So the Mariners made up a game on the Astros. They're now 4 games back in the division with 5 to play. So the Mariners would have to win all their games, and the Astros would have to basically lose all their games, and then the Mariners would win the division. That is unlikely to happen. The wild card race is far more interesting. So there are 3 wild card spots in the American League, as we know. Currently, the Baltimore Orioles hold the first wild card spot, and they have a 4-game cushion on the first team that's out of that picture. Then the Detroit Tigers at 83 and 74 have snuck in there, and they now have a half-game cushion on the Kansas City Royals, who are the final wild card team currently, also at 82 and 74. So same number of losses as the Tigers, but 1 less win, hence the half-game lead for the Tigers. Then on the outside, looking in, are the Minnesota Twins at 81 and 75. They are 1 game behind Kansas City. And the Seattle Mariners sit at 81 and 76, so a game and a half behind the Kansas City Royals, 2 games behind the Tigers, and half a game behind the Twins. Tonight, on the 24th, obviously Seattle is in Houston. We're going to tee that game up for you for a moment. The Twins are hosting the Marlins for 3 games. The Marlins stink. This is a very interesting time for them to be playing a National League opponent that's out of the playoffs. We'll see how Miami and Minnesota respond. Equally, the Kansas City Royals are traveling to Washington, D.C. to take on the Nationals, another out-of-it National League opponent who just demoted one of their young stars because he was caught gambling. Anyway, the Kansas City just struggled dealing with the San Francisco Giants, who are another National League team out of the playoff picture. So, Kansas City 2-8 in their last 10. They've lost 7 in a row. Wrong time to lose 7 in a row. The Detroit Tigers, on the other hand, are hosting the Tampa Bay Rays, who are not entirely out of it. They're 4.5 games back with 5 to play. The Red Sox are 3.5 back with 5 to play also. But that's a bit of a tougher matchup, I would argue, than the other 2 teams. Seattle evidently has the toughest of those opponent in the Houston Astros. So the Tigers will be hosting Tampa for 3. Let's see how that goes. I do want to point out that the Mariners are now a plus 58 run differential, which is far better than the Tigers and the Twins. And that's very interesting because they were hovering around like the 15 to 20 mark all year, but their offense has suddenly exploded in the last month. So we just hope that they can keep that rolling. To that end, into keeping it rolling, they're going to be in for a hell of a fight tonight, and it should be one hell of a baseball game. So, September 24th, 2024, from Minute Maid Park in Houston, Texas, at 8:10 p.m. Eastern Time, the Seattle Mariners will do battle with the Houston Astros. It'll be Logan Walter Gilbert, the right-hander, number 36, 8-11, 3.24 ERA, and 207 Ks on the season. One of the top starters in the American League and all of baseball will be taking the bump for Seattle. He'll be going up against left-hander Framber Valdez, 14-7, 2.85 ERA, 165 strikeouts, a devastating, fantastic pitcher in his own right. This is a truly gigantic battle between two excellent starting pitchers, and we have lineups to back them up behind them. So, backing up Gilbert in the field will be Victor Robles in right, Julio Rodriguez in center, Cal Raleigh behind the plate, Randy Arozarena in left, Turner at first, Polanco at second, Mitch Garver will DH, J.P. Crawford will be at short, and Dylan Moore at third. So Moore in at third for Rojas, and Garver in at DH for Luke Raley. Rojas and Raley out, Garver and Moore in, says Dan Wilson tonight. All right, and he'll be going up against the vaunted Houston offense. Jose Altuve leads off, playing second base, followed by Kyle Tucker in right, Alec Bregman at third, Yanni Diaz behind the plate, John Singleton DHing, Victor Caratini at first, Jeremy Pena at shortstop, Jason Hayward in left, and Dubon in center field. Should be a truly fantastic game. I can't wait to watch it and then bring you a recap of this tomorrow. The tension is palpable. It's the most beautiful time of the year. Let's go Mariners.